Hello and welcome. This is Bear's guide to my Phase 3 BIS list. Today I'm looking at Phase 3 Wrath Bear Tanking. This is a set I've built to take a dive into and try to possibly pick up some of these pieces, if not all of them. These pieces for this phase are really good, and there are quite a few upgrades from this phase to last that can provide a lot of utility to tanking. For example, our Tier 9 4-piece gives Barkskin a 12-second cooldown. I know Barkskin isn't used a lot by most ferals, but as a bear tank, it can provide a 20% damage reduction, which can help mitigate some of the extra damage you're taking compared to other tanks, which take anywhere from 2 to 3 times less than bears. So, in my opinion, the 4-piece Tier 9 is a solid choice. The rest of the slots that I've selected here are more for stam options. If you want more threat options, there are plenty of other choices. But since bears tend to take more damage than any other tank, I'm deciding that this could be the best possible setup. Now, let's get into the gear. The 4-piece Tier 9 I'm going with are all the pieces but the legs. Just by looking at these items, they can be the best option for a non-PvP druid as far as stam and agility. Neck, I'm going with Legionnaires as an upgrade over the last phase, Ulduar Freya neck. Now, the necks are quite similar and they can still be interchanged very easily, but that's the option I'm going with. Cloak. It's a little bit tricky for cloaks just because it gives strength instead of agi for the cloak, but the strength turns into mitigation due to the bear's passive talent of survival. Every time that we crit, we get 25% of our attack power gets converted into a damage shield that gets absorbed when we get hit by a physical attack. And so that's why that cloak is going to be an easier choice for me. This may be a slot where you can put in a different cloak and get more threat from it. For example, you could even throw one of the other 50 out of 50 DPS art cloaks in there for a little bit more threat. But in my opinion, it'll be hard enough to get it. But it's still possible to get, even in the later phases. So either the 10 or 25 man 50 out of 50 cloaks are going to be the best option for this slot. For wrists, I'm going with armbands over solar bindings from last phase. Mostly because of the extra stats you get with it, and the extra socket is always nice to have. For belts, I am going with the one I'm going for is a little bit different. It just has a little bit more stam compared to cinch from last phase, and hit instead of expertise. But hit's always been one of the stats that bears have been lacking on, so this is definitely a good solid option to pick up. Alright, on to legs. I'm going with legs off of Beast because of the good stam it has. And this will be over the Yogg hard mode legs. The difference between the two is just the extra stamina you get, and it provides hit instead of armor pen. Crit is changed out to haste, which are all good options for bear tanking. Boots, we're going to go with the Ice Walker Treads. Those are the ones from Faction Champions, so it may be different for the Alliance. And they're just a solid upgrade over the boots from last phase. You could go for the normal mode ones, but you lose out on one socket, which can make or break sets depending on what gems you use. Alright, it's time for rings. Rings, I'm sticking with the Fate's Clutch from Thorum. It is a really good, solid option, and I think it's going to be the best option that we have for our second ring. And then the first ring I am going with is going to be the ring off of the Twin Valkyrs. It has everything that we're looking for as a bear tank: armor, stamina, dodge, defense, everything. The strength could be a little bit different, so this could also be a couple slots where you can throw in a little bit more of a threat option. But Twin Band of the Twin Valkyr is a good solid option in everything that bears want as far as rings. The normal mode one of it is still a good option, but I think that the emblem one might slightly pull ahead of the normal mode one, depending on what you get. And it's either way, you're looking at that ring being really good and a good solid option for an upgrade. Next, we're going to go on to trinkets. We're keeping Heart of Iron, in my opinion, for this next phase, just because Heart of Iron gives you that dodge on use. And that dodge on use is really, really good. And then we're going to swap out the Stam Trinket from Yogg 10 Normal. That used to be from Yogg 10 Normal. It's just, we don't utilize the on use, and the Juggernaut's Vitality, or whichever boss that drops from, it could be a really good option. The extra HP that you get from it as on use, granted it is a 3-minute cooldown, it's a lot, and it could actually potentially save you from dying if used properly. Alright, now for idols. This idol that comes out next phase is huge, both for bears and cats. We're going to go with Idol of Mutilation. 200 dodge rating for 9 seconds. That's worth almost 3 pieces of gear. And it only has a 9 seconds uptime, but the ICD of it is 8 seconds. Meaning it could have the potential of being up 100% of the time when you put it up. It's got a 70% proc rate, so it's pretty high. With a low ICD, you can pretty much give a good bet that you're going to be able to get this to proc all the time and have it up all the time. 200 extra dodge, really good. Easy change from last phases, which was the Mangle Idol, and the dodge is just really good. I don't see a difference between the two other than you get a little bit more crit and more armor, but honestly, if you just dodge it forehead, then it's easy. And then weapon, we will go with the Hellion's Glaive, and it will be the heroic version. I believe the other one's Archon's Glaive for Alliance, and that drops from Anubarak. The Dark Edge of Depravity from Yogg 25 will most likely be your second best option for a PvE Druid, just because of the extra sockets you get from it, and this one has 2 sockets. This one gives you a little bit more stam, it gives you crit, it gives you way more attack power than the Dark Edge of Depravity, and it's a really solid option. If you use the PvP weapons, still use the PvP weapons. Those provide way more stam than any other weapon that you can get in a PvE scenario. And the PvP weapons have a good solid threat point to them, as far as like they give you crit and attack power plus the feral attack power. So if you're going for the PvP weapons, in my opinion, the PvP weapons are better than the PvE ones. But if you cannot get to that 2200 rating, Hellion's Glaive is a really solid option and a really good option. And as far as gemming goes, I've looked at gemming quite a few times for this set. And from what I've seen is that gemming into defense and stamina and agi stamina in the yellow and red sockets does help your survivability according to the Sims. So that could be a good place for you to change up if you are dying way too quickly. You could throw in more stam. It would just allow you to take a few more hits and not die, but I'm going with defense and agi for my yellow and red sockets just because I can get my socket bonuses and get more out of my pieces of gear. Blue sockets, obviously I'm just going straight stamina. There's no other just blue sockets that are really good, and the extra stamina is really nice. There is one I am not going for, and it would be the ring. Just because Fate's Clutch, the 30 stamina you get from it for the blue socket in comparison to the 21 stamina you would get if you threw in any other gem, I'd rather have the extra 9 stamina. It is my opinion. That could be different for other people, but gemming is normally different for other people, and they just kind of have to get the feel for it. And as far as enchants go, I am still sticking with Mongoose. I know that people have said that blood draining is a better option, and blood draining does help save you when you get low in HP, but I feel like Mongoose, as far as like damage taken, it helps mitigate a lot more than blood draining. So in my opinion, I'm sticking with Mongoose. But yeah, this is my setup. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. I answer all of the comments in my channel. If you like this video, want to see more feral videos, feel free to drop a like and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you didn't like the video, go ahead and tell me why in the comments, and I'll answer it and try and figure out what I can do better for you next time. Thanks.